Chair.
By the way, Philip, how should I pronounce your last name?
Lisa, we are like
Stelter.
Good.
Fine. I'll get it.
Good. So everyone is muted except me, right? Cool. You know, when you were doing this live event, all the tech stuff is happening. So hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Today we will talk about AI in EdTech, and we are doing this live broadcast to YouTube, and we need like 20 seconds to let our audience to come to the room. So I'll be silent now a bit because we are waiting for people, and so that's okay. Let's wait a bit, okay? All people are joining, and 20 seconds done. Cool. Okay, let's start. Hi, everyone. My name is Lesia, and I will be your host today. And today we will talk about AI and tech, about the real-world insights on building and automating. We are having 3 speakers here who will tell about their journey and their experience in working with AI and how they develop this in their products, businesses, and companies. And while we are still waiting for more audience to join, I want to tell you a bit about our agenda and how we're going to work today. So near this main screen where we see me right now, on the right side, there is our live chat. And we will use that to communicate with the speakers, because after all blocks, we will have the Q&A session. And during the whole event, please feel free to write your questions there. We will save them, and during the Q&A session I will read it out to our speakers, and we will try to answer all of them. And also I want to remind you that we have this 5 seconds delay because of the live broadcast, so if you don't react on your messages right away, that's because of the delay. And also let me tell you a bit about the agenda. So we have 3 speakers, and the first one will be Philip Stelter. He is a business consultant and marketing expert who works with different businesses, and they consult businesses on how they can build the roadmaps of implementing AI, and they work together with the new startups and already established businesses. So that will be like the general talk about AI and the business industry. After Philip, we will have Dmytro Voloshin. Dmytro is CTO and co-founder of Preply. Preply, that's a tech product which helps people to learn languages. And recently, Preply managed to get 70 million fund for implementing AI feature in their product. So Dmytro will tell us about Preply in general and how they managed to get such a big fund for creating AI and improving it. And after Dmytro, we will have Anastasia Petrova with us. And Anastasia is from Beetroot Academy. So Beetroot Academy is social enterprise, and they work with educating people who want to join IT industry or like switch from their previous career. And Anastasia will tell us about importance of AI education and how they add AI to their product, and what is the upskill and the general like AI solution. Because, you know, when we are talking about the product, and it's sometimes easy to create AI feature for the product, but at Beetroot Academy, their product is education, you know, like this courses, and Anastasia will tell us how they managed to find a solution for that. Yeah, so that's a small intro about our speakers and the future topics. And it's already 5 minutes from the beginning of the event. And I think that we have enough people who already joined. And I can say that intro part is done. And I'm ready to pass a word to our first speaker. That's Philip Stelter from Clearly Partners, who will tell us about the general implementing of AI for different kind of businesses. Welcome, Philip.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. So let me see if I can get through the technical first. I'll share my screen. Oops. All set?
Excellent. Yeah, right. We can see your screen.
Wonderful. So I feel like that's the question we have to ask at the beginning of every one of these. So, but we have screen. Hi, my name is Philip Stelter. Greetings from a very sunny Brooklyn. I'm based here in New York. My partners are based in London. I'm the co-founder of a company called Clearly Partners. We are basically an AI consultancy, generative AI consultancy. I've been working about 20 years in startups and agencies, both in the US and UK. I've done work with SaaS startups. I've worked in EdTech. I've launched an EdTech startup last year. I've got, there's an AI-powered brand intelligence startup that I was involved in about 2 years ago. So I've been circling around tech, AI, etc. for 20 plus years. My first role was actually in a startup in 2019. So I'm dating myself massively there. But today I'll be talking to you about how companies should engage with generative AI. So first and foremost, I think everybody has to start with context, and context is really important in understanding how people are going to use or integrate generative AI into their businesses. So let's talk about this year. There's some big things that have happened this year. You may have noticed generative AI is launched. And in that process, we've come to realize how big an impact this is going to have on society, on our businesses, on our organizations, on our daily lives. Bill Gates, I think, kind of hit it really nicely in terms of the scale of the impact, and entire industries changing. But I think the key thing that he captured there was businesses will distinguish themselves based on how well they use generative AI. So it's a priority, right? It's a massive focus. If you look at some of the searches, and this is the old marketer in me goes immediately to search to try and figure out, well, how present is this topic, in people's minds? It's less than a year ago that ChatGPT actually launched. I mean, I don't know how well people really recognize this. It moved so quickly. We're 11 months into this. So it's an enormous impact. The searches you can actually see. So the first little OpenAI symbol is where ChatGPT actually launched in November of last year. And that was late November, so we're not even the year. But then it's basically ChatGPT 4 launched in, it was like early April. And from that point forward, it just skyrocketed. So generative AI became the topic, the only topic that we were really talking about. It was an enormous launch and ramp in terms of interest. And what that meant was all of us who were doing our day jobs suddenly had to contend with this new thing that suddenly appeared in front of us. And that's, I think, what a lot of businesses are contending with. So it's arrived very quickly. It's very massive. OpenAI at this point has gone, they're going to be 1.3 billion this year. I mean, just think about that in terms of revenues from 200 million last year. It is an enormous scaling. It's kind of dizzying. And so most businesses have been entirely blindsided by this. Companies are struggling with where to start. They don't really know. And it's been a tough year. I don't think you'll find a lot of companies who are saying we're over-resourced. We have too many people to work on this. If anything, they're doing 3 or 4 jobs themselves. So to suddenly have this dropped on you, and it's a priority, and it's something that's big, it's scary, there's lots of unknowns. What are you doing next? It just opens up tons of questions. And then the fear factor comes in when things like Samsung releasing source code into ChatGPT. It's unsettling. So where to start? Who's actually going to own this? It's a big mess. Add to that, so I'm just going to keep compounding this. Add to that the number of use cases, the sheer breadth of those use cases, and the thing becomes pretty daunting because it isn't just owned by one part of the business. And it's not just one area that it'll impact. And the applications for this can be enormous and very broad. And then the pace of all of these releases that are coming out. So it's a chaotic landscape. Nobody knows what to start with. You're being updated day after day with something new that's emerged. Now suddenly ChatGPT is multimodal. Ah, great. It's just one thing after another. And so where to begin? So it's big, it's fast, it's scary, it's confusing. And yet their teams and their investors and their board members are all asking them, what are you going to do? Like, what's your plan? What's your strategy? That's a scary, difficult thing to get dumped on you, but you can't ignore it because the reality is, if you look at there's a BCG study, they basically studied a large set of consultants and they found that they completed tasks 12.2% faster, or 12.2 more tasks were completed 25% faster and 40% higher quality in terms of what they were completing. These are consultants, so take it for what it's worth. But they should know what they're doing. They should be very good at what they do. They should be very efficient in how they do it. And they've made improvements on this. There's a lot of depth to that study. It's really worth reading. But the key point is they have to address this. Every company has to address this. And they know that the only way forward is to figure it out, but there isn't a clear manual. There's no guide. No one has the path forward. So they have to explore what's called the jagged frontier. And the jagged frontier is something that I think it was coming out of Ethan Mollick at Wharton. And he was basically saying, if you look at all of the tasks and the tasks that are, assume they're all equidistant, the way in which AI can address those tasks is actually very uneven. So you don't know whether or not AI is going to work, generative AI is going to work very well with a particular task or a use case. So what it means is there aren't always those obvious areas to engage with, CS, customer service, sales, marketing, coding. I think there's some very, very obvious ones. And then it becomes less clear and even weirder when you start working with your own bespoke data. So, and you'll start to realize that Gen AI isn't always good at things, in particular, math. It's not really great at math. It makes a lot of errors. You have to do quite a bit of work to get it to function correctly. So Gen AI is different. And what that means is building and testing is going to be key, right? So how it responds to various use cases will have to be explored and tested and refined. And near term, it's going to be through your people. So that's the sort of first area, which is around third-party tools and the sort of application layer. And they're going to find all those immediate use cases and quick wins. So enabling that within your organization is going to be really important. And the second is that the real value is long-term. It's going to be in how you integrate the tech with your data and those things that make your company unique. And that's a bigger question. And that's one that won't have necessarily, a payoff of this quarter. It may be in a year or 3 years before you actually really see that reward. So exploring that has to become a strategic priority. So where should you begin? So we at Clearly Partners, we actually put together a white paper, and it was very much built around the consultancy that we've been doing. Because the conversations that we have are, well, where do I start? What do I begin with? Like, who should even own this? What should I budget for it? Like, what kind of, is this a safe space to explore? How do I do it? So what we've done is we've come up with sort of 5 easy first steps that we think will help people at least get started and start rolling in terms of how they're using generative AI. So first and foremost is building a small team. The second is to focus on developing a policy that enables the organization. So literally the knee-jerk reaction, I'm based in New York, so I talk to a lot of banks. The bank's first reaction, shut it down. Just shut it down. But that's not a policy. And that's not a way forward if you're actually going to explore this. So policy is critical. Setting up a series of proofs of concepts so that you can go through and validate use cases and the applications that can solve them. And then developing a strategy that focuses on both the big vision and then the short-term sort of wins. And then finally, getting your data in good order so that the LLM can actually work with it if it's able to work with it. Oops, a little navigation problem there. Right, so first thing to do is to build a team, right? And we know that this is not an easy thing to do. So what I've done, by the way, is I'll be taking you through a sort of a series of phases as you progress through. And the 5 sort of key steps, I'll point these out as we go and talk about where they fit in. So the first is building an AI team, and assembling a small task force of internal experts is probably the obvious place to start, and where I think most businesses have already started. It's going to be a cross-functional team. They're going to be focused on experiments, and they're going to be developing a plan, like the actual strategy that ultimately needs to be produced. So try to avoid building the perfect team too quickly. Work with your partners. Wherever you're going to find skill gaps, which there will be skill gaps, you need to bring in experts. And then later you can formalize this into a larger team. So with roles like data scientists and engineers, product managers, and ethics leads. And finding talent is going to be challenging. There's a lot of competition for that talent, particularly the engineers. Anybody who's a data scientist with any background in machine learning or just AI in general is highly in demand and probably being paid pretty well. So it's a great space to go into if you can. Consider that humans and AI, so the combined teams, are going to be the most powerful. So the way that this team works with AI is going to be the sort of, they'll define basically how the organization works going forward. Policy. So I mentioned it before. This is the thing that unlocks the exploration of the jagged frontier. So if you don't know what those use cases are, which ones you can actually apply Gen AI to solve, then you need to figure that out, and it's going to be a testing approach. But to do that, you need to actually enable it. So first, take an agile approach to developing sort of a guardrails type policy. Establish some cross-functional governance, because it isn't just going to be one area of the business. It's going to be quite a few. You're going to have to include legal. You're going to have to include your technology, your IT team. You're going to have to include HR. It's going to be a big team. You need to make sure there's some very clear ethical guidelines that you get in place, and how human oversight is going to come into this, because the potential for bias is significant, and you need to be able to control for this. Policy should empower the teams that are you're trying to experiment. And so that should be the number one priority of it. It's not locking things down, it's opening things up, but in a responsible way. Next is basically, you have to remember that Gen AI is different, and we're going to have to take a test and learn approach. So this is going to be very hands-on and iterative. It's going to be building proofs of concept early. Prototyping will be key, because you can't really predict how the models will behave without testing it. And especially, based on what data you put in, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get out. You have to allow more time for experimentation, and you'll actually have to put some sort of performance measurement in place, because you're investing time and resources and expending budget. You'll need to show that there's some sort of return on gains from that, and I think defining that will be key. There'll be build and buy, or build versus buy decisions that you'll need to make, and those are largely going to come out of those individual use cases and the POCs that you're actually running. That's going to drive a lot of the direction of the decision. So do we need to invest more into this? Do we need to own it ourselves and build around it? Or is this something that we can actually use a third-party tool around? And then choosing partners is going to be really key. So finding somebody that knows how your business works, understands safety and security, it can take you through a structured process. This is really important. In parallel, as you learn and you're testing, you need to develop a strategy with both long-term vision and near-term, kind of a near-term roadmap with quick wins. So you want to conduct an audit to understand your current AI maturity. And then that you should basically be in the strategy outlining some of the key components like technology, data, and what the budgets are around this. So really, what is your scope for developing all of this and moving it forward? You want to develop the strategy in parallel with the hands-on experiments. That's how you're going to validate ideas. And you want to revisit the strategy regularly as technology evolves. So ensure that it's focusing on some sort of measurable value. That's the biggest tip I can share. We all know, and this is sort of the fifth and final, and there's a lot more that you can dig into here. The quality of data is the lifeblood of AI. So if you have really poor quality data, this is going to be a particularly difficult endeavor for you. And I think that's one of those assessments that you'll want to hit early on. Hopefully you have some sense of where value lies within your company's data. But audit what you have, try and fix any issues. You may even be able to leverage Gen AI to help fix some of those issues with quality. Focus on compliance and monitoring, and then explore the use cases where the data is already ready to go. So that's going to be your sort of green light. And then ensure that there's diversity, like more data empowers a more capable AI. All these large models operate on enormous scale of data pools. So what you really want is as much as possible, so it can truly learn. And then bias is a huge risk, so that has to be addressed. Ethics should be paramount in anything you're doing around generative AI, and I think it's very easy to sort of gloss past this, but it's one that the unintended consequences could be significant if you're not focused on this upfront. So, has everyone already done all of this? They've gone through all of these steps. No, that's not the case. Quite a few businesses have started. Most enterprises have engaged with this already, but barely. So I think the stats were there's like 80%, 81% have internal generative AI teams of any significant size. And that's great. And there's a team and they're talking and they're meeting, but are they doing anything? Most aren't. They're really not at that stage where they're actually executing on this in any significant way. It's sort of the quick wins or experimenting with things early on. 2023, the budgets have not, these are Gartner stats. The budgets are not really set to change. So I think the expectation should be this year, if they haven't done it, they're not going to. 2024, that's where the investment's coming. And I think people have finally sort of planned in for that. They've got capacity, resources, and they're ready to go. So this should be the interesting thing to watch. And they've also said that, so this is the same Gartner survey, saying that 80% are expecting to have full Gen AI adoption within the next 3 years. So this is going to be pretty fast. 1 year was fast for the scaling that we've had. 3 years for 80% of enterprises to have full Gen AI adoption. That is enormous. The last thing I'll leave you with is a little bit about the hype cycle. And this is, Gartner owns this one as well. They've done a brilliant job, but they've talked about a lot of past technologies and sort of the process you go through. And if you notice the curve, it's a fun one. The peak of inflated expectations all the way down to the trough of disillusionment. And according to Chris Howard, who's the chief of research at Gartner, he basically said he's never seen anything move this quickly through it. And he is very certain that we are entering the trough of disillusionment already, 11 months into this. And that means this is where the real work begins. So we've got hard work ahead of us, but that's opportunity. And I think it is not too late, and it's definitely never too early to get started with this. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much. And we have the white paper available. I think that may be sent around afterwards.
Okay. It looks that was the last slide, and Philip's speech is done for now. Thank you a lot, Philip, for preparing the presentation and sharing your experience and expertise. So, guys, we started questions for Philip in the chat, and we will read it to Philip during the Q&A session. And now we have the second block, and we are inviting our second speaker, Dmytro Voloshin from Preply. And Dmytro is co-founder and CTO of Preply, and he will tell us about Gen AI in EdTech business and tell us more about Preply's story and how they managed to get funds for develop AI feature and how is their business right now doing. So welcome, Dmytro.
Hey, thanks, Lesia, and thanks, Philip. I think that some of the things in my presentation will show some practical aspects of doing things, and also the report that you showed from BCG. We did our own internal study about how AI tools can improve efficiency of our organization, and I also shared a little bit in the end. So I hope it will be a nice practical transition to how EdTech businesses can implement generative AI, because indeed it's like a big hype right now and great potential for every business. So a few words about myself and about the company where I work. So my name is Dmitro Voloshin. I am one of the co-founders and CTO at Preply. And Preply is the world's biggest marketplace for online language learning with a human. So we are kind of a business that organically is on the opposite side of AI. So we basically help people to learn with other people, and we focus on languages. So if you ever need to learn French, German, English, Spanish, whichever language, you should go to preply.com. We'll have the biggest kind of amount of teachers perhaps in the world, around 40,000 tutors who work with us and earn with us. We are the biggest in the world. We have more than 2 million learners. We are present in almost every country in the world, like 190 countries. We recently got a payment from Vatican, but like we don't know who was that. So we're really like almost in every country in the world. And we also have this very interesting line of business, which is Preply B2B. And it's basically on these animated slides, which can distract you from what I'm telling you. You can see that our product for businesses, because we started as B2C marketplace where students from different countries could book lessons online and have them on the platform. But then we also started helping businesses to improve the English language level in their organizations. And we have very big clients like Uber, TikTok, McKinsey, and others who use Preply to upgrade English level in their companies. So if your company has that need, Preply is also one of the good solutions for you. And in my talk, I'll talk about two aspects. First one is product. Basically, how did we start to build a generative AI features in product, and what were our learnings? And the second one, how we try to improve internal efficiency of the organization with the help of AI. So let's go to the product first. When all this hype about AI started, we were thinking, hey, what this opportunity brings to us? What can we do better than our competitors to make our customers more happy? And our thinking about AI came to this statement that value now lies in the distribution, use cases, and the user interaction quality and proprietary information which companies have. And you can unpack it in different ways, but the general idea is the following. API for GPT-3 was publicly available for a year before you had that UI interface with the ChatGPT itself. So the technology was there, but user interface and UX quality was not. So when we think about this example and many others, we think that you can have a very cool tech, but it should be a very nice UI and UX interface for you to interact with it. And a good example here is also, for example, like Siri. It's a good tech, a good UI, but technology is not yet there. And basically, not all of the people use it for more complicated use cases rather than switch on the lights and so on. So we strongly believe that companies which will win in AI world, they will not only have a great technology, but they also will have a great UI interface and UX interface. Secondly, is that it feels that for companies who have distribution, generative AI brings much more benefits. Why? Because they have already millions of users. And as a small startup, it will be much harder for you to compete with them. For example, if you build a tool for grammar correction and you use generative AI to do that, you can try to build a business on that, but you can be killed at the moment when Google spreadsheets or Microsoft Office will just embed it into their product and push it over to billions of users worldwide. So like second thing, distribution, super important. And the third thing is like proprietary information. So people say that data is a new oil, and we think that the more proprietary data you have, something unique that your competitors don't, the stronger moat you can build. And in our case, obviously, our moat is like lessons that happen on the platforms that we can analyze, and we can use it for teaching some of the generative AI tools. So from this, we started to think, where is the best use case for our product to start playing with generative AI. And as a two-sided marketplace, we have students who learn and teachers who teach. And we started from teachers. I'll tell you later why. But basically, one of the most popular models that really work for companies who already have distribution, and Prep already had distribution because we had 40,000 tutors, is so-called Copilot model. So basically, what do? You try to build a tool for people to be more efficient in their job. And we built the first feature for our teachers, which we call Teacher Assistant. And basically, to simplify it, it's wrapper around GPT-4 and GPT-3. But it's wrapper with a very nice UI and UX that is embedded into the teaching process. So as a teacher, you can generate in our on our platform exercises, grammar, reading assignments for your students. And basically, you can see filters on this picture that is animated. And basically, these filters do different prompt engineering that later we send as API call to GPT-3. So basically, we built a nice UX UI interface for teachers who don't know anything about GPT-3 or GPT-4 to start finally using it. And teachers loved it. We achieved very good adoption, like double-digit adoption, which is like straight from the day one. And teachers were like super amazed. And one of the interesting learnings here is that here you can see some reviews from our teachers, but one of the interesting learnings for us was when we just put it online, we had some adoption. But what made a difference is to educate your users how to use these features. So we started doing different webinars. We added it to so-called Prep Academy, and we started talking about generative AI and this feature in particular, how it can help teachers to be more efficient, how to automate very routine tasks and be more creative at their work, like to focus on what matters. And what matters in learning process for learning languages is like speaking practice, motivation, other things. Teachers are not always methodologies that can create the best homework, and generative AI can do that much, much better than teachers, some of them at least. And after we did the kind of education of our tutors, the feature got a really good adoption and feedback. So one of the key learnings from this first feature is that people don't yet know about how to use generative AI. And if you build products for them or features for users that use generative AI product, you should also educate your market. And yeah, we're 11 months in, but still, people think it's kind of magic. They don't understand the full capabilities of it. Another example, when we started building features for students, here on the right, you can see mirror board and also some results of a survey that we did with users. Generally, people are scared about AI. And the major sentiment everywhere is that I'll lose my job. Like for teachers, for developers, for designers, for copywriters, for translators, people are afraid that AI, artificial intelligence, will change the way how the economy works, how their job will be valued, and so on. And fear is not a good ally, and you need to show an opportunity that it brings to your users and how people can be better in their jobs. Because in the end, you cannot stop this technology. It's already there. It will start automating slowly different tasks that we all do, like writing text or creating images and so on. So when we started building our first feature to students, we saw that they're really afraid about how it should work, and they are not coming for AI on practice, they're coming for real humans. So we took a concept of so-called playful experience. So one of the distinctive features of generative AI is that you never know what will be the output of the model. It's not deterministic. You can ask one question, depending on which time of the day you do it, depending on the temperature that is inside the model, whatever, you get some output. It's not always correct. It can be hallucination and so on. And if you don't have the deterministic experience, it is a little bit harder for people to pay for it. There is a longer line of reasoning why, but generally it is a bit more random. And the way to solve for it for us was to create this experience to be a little bit more playful. Because if it is not deterministic, you can assume that your product will make errors. AI will make errors, and you should create it more like a game. So our feature for students was explore Spanish words. Well, basically it is a free chat where you can explore different words and learn them, and we add it to your vocabulary, and you can repeat them and repeat and repeat, but it's more gamified experience. And our learning from this was it was a good start, but still a lot of things on the quality side of this product should be much, much improved. People expect from AI it will work frictionlessly and with amazing quality. And to get that in practice, in production, is not always easy. So this is an example of two features that we built, and I'll quickly try to go through efficiency things that I mentioned. And this slide is basically just to illustrate that when building products with generative AI, you don't really need to start with data science and machine learning and team of like super deep experts in LLMs and so on. You can start building your product just around building API calls around OpenAI. So you have amazing quality. It will be hard to match for most of the companies on this planet. And the next step, even before like moving to something more like models, building models yourself and so on, would be to become really good at prompt engineering. I think what we did in the company, we bought courses from deep learning AI to teach people how to do prompt engineering. What are the different techniques and how does it work and what does it mean? And I don't think prompt engineering will be a job, but I definitely think that it will be a good skill to have for everyone in the industry soon. So internal efficiency. Everybody claims, hey, similar to BCG reports that Philip shared, you can become like 10x better developer by having GitHub Copilot. You can do 36% more tasks as a consultant, as a BCG group, whatever. It seems like a lot. And we were curious, what is the real number in our case? So what we did is basically we made a very big push on adoption of AI tools. Basically, we asked every developer to use GitHub Copilot and GPT-4 in their job. And our sample size is not super big, it's 100 engineers, and we got to adoption 65%. And it's basically not just asking, but actually forcing and doing a lot of education, talks with them, and so on and so on. So 65% started using AI tools. Not all of them with a similar frequency, and the major kind of rejection points why I shouldn't use it was like, oh, I need more training, I don't have use cases, I don't have paid licenses, so please buy it for me. And also there is a fear that people just like afraid to use it, like averse of using it. But we got to adoption 65%. So basically what then we did, we basically compared, let's call it story points, but we compared the throughput of the engineers who were using AI tools versus engineers who were not using AI tools. And we also did it retrospectively on a cohort basis. So we compared people who use AI to themselves a year ago where AI wasn't yet present, and we did the same for people who were not using AI. And in the real world, and you can see different numbers here, so how the way to interpret this table is that amazing engineers will use generative AI much more, and they'll become more productive. But in average, the gains that we were able like to show with the data is just 10%. So people just do like 10% more tickets, story points, whatever. It's not a lot, but if you think about it, on a scale of 100 engineers, it's like 10 engineers. It's pretty significant budget. So it's a good start, and it's only 65% adoption. Unlikely that you'll be able to get to 100% adoption among engineers, but like something around 80, 90 should be possible. And I think these numbers will go up as people will get more and more proficiency, especially engineers getting more proficiency with code completion, writing unit tests, and so on. So I will learn 10% efficiency improvement in engineering. And just a summary from what I told today, quality in AI products will play a key role beyond prototyping. So like for prototyping, yeah, you can have bad quality, but then people will compare you to other tools until alternatives. Quality is super important. Perhaps 80% ballpark number of initial value can be generated without AI engineers. So you can do it with just smart people understanding how to make API calls to OpenAI and some prompt engineering. Perception of AI among potential users and internally can be the key insight for adoption. So talk with your users, talk with your colleagues to understand how these tools can play out in your business. And also, like as Philip mentioned, long-term effects will be significant, but we overestimate like short-term effects. We think that like next quarter, everything will be different. No, next quarter, everything will perhaps be like 10% different. But in 5 years, we'll be living in the world where AI will be a new normal. And we need to learn how to coexist with it and to be efficient with it. That's it. I think we'll park questions on this until the end of our webinar, yeah?
Yeah, right. We will have the Q&A session after Anastasia's speech. Okay, thank you a lot, Metro. That was so fun to hear about your experience, and thank you for sharing like the data and how your journey went. Even me, not a tech person, like that was interesting for me to hear that. Yeah. Okay. So our next and the last speaker for today, Anastasia Petrova from Beetroot Academy. Anastasia, welcome on board.
Thanks a lot, Lisa. I will share my screen. Just a second. Can you see it? Double checking.
Yeah,
thanks
works
a lot. Thanks a lot, Les, and thanks a lot to Philip and Metro. That was really interesting to listen to both of you, and I think we actually gathered here like angles on the topic that add on to each other. So we started with general advice how to implement AI, then we moved to a very practical experience of Preply, how it was implemented, and very interesting insights. And now I will wrap up our today's webinar with importance of AI education. So one more aspect and how to educate companies, how to educate outer people that are just entering IT sphere. And I will talk about a bit more about our plans in Beetroot Academy, how we are doing it right now, and what are our plans. A little bit more about myself, why I'm here, why I'm talking to you. I lead our strategic partnerships in Beetroot Academy, and I coordinate our social impact projects that we implement with our donors and other partners. So they include international organizations such as big UN agencies and other humanitarian organizations such as ACTED and PACT, as well as USAID and different embassies in Ukraine or various countries. We design projects together with them to help to reskill vulnerable audiences into tech and help them to get new jobs, such as internally displaced people in Ukraine, also refugees that are now residing in different countries that moved out of Ukraine, and also rural women or other people that need reskilling. And soon we'll announce new projects that we are starting to educate also veterans of war in Ukraine. Also, we cooperate with IT clusters, with businesses, with NGOs, and it's really exciting, and it's a lot of partnership opportunities in the tech sphere. A little bit more about us. So you also know what this Beetroot Academy is about. It's a part of a bigger ecosystem. It's a Beetroot ecosystem that also includes Beetroot Tech, a software development company, and also Beetroot Aid Fund. And we started in Ukraine, but we also looking globally, and we expand internationally to other markets. In some markets, we worked already for a while. With some markets, we are entering now and experimenting. And for example, this year we are planning to launch our first Beetroot Academy Python course group in the US. And also we have close ties with countries around Ukraine, as also it was Sweden, as we are a Swedish-Ukrainian social enterprise. And for us, it's important that keeping our Ukrainian roots, we also look internationally and building our partnership and helping also people to reskill into tech that are abroad. And what is the challenge that we are facing overall with our product, but also if we talk about AI, is the global skill gap. Even though, as all of us know, that the IT sphere having ups and downs, but it's still developing, still having new technologies, new products, and by 2030 there will be a global shortage of tech workers, and at the same time there are a lot of people that are losing jobs due to wars, due to economic crises, and that for example, if we look if you look on situation in Ukraine, more than 10 million of Ukrainians needed to leave their homes and in the end losing their jobs. So tech could be a way we could close this gap, but by educating those people that need their skilling into tech. And our solution is basically our intensive practice-oriented courses. It's important to mention that we have two dimensions. The first is reskilling people that change the career from some previous sphere and enter tech from scratch, from the beginning. And we train them to get their first education into the profession. And we also do upscaling of those employees of companies, of IT companies, or also related companies in digital economy that need new skills. As also our previous speakers mentioned, that yeah, people are afraid that AI tools will replace people, but it's not true. It can make them stronger, as also the stats that Metro shared about how much the efficiency increased. So we also believe in that also if you are already working in tech, it's important to stay on track and also follow the trends. And that's why we as Academy also are eager to upskill, including AI education. And I will tell a bit more about our courses so you understand to which products we are adding AI education. Our courses are from 2 to 5 months, part-time, intensive in the format of the bootcamp, 100% remote, so we can reach more people in various locations and different audiences, and led by teachers, practitioners from the sphere, and taught in Ukrainian and or English. And our courses are technical and non-technical. Here you can see which courses we provide and in which languages. And we are always expanding our portfolio and looking at the trends, what else we should develop, what else we should improve, what courses we need to update with new technologies, with new knowledge and new cases of also companies in the world. And also what's important to us is to give people also overview and some career orientation courses. So also when the war started, we developed intro to tech professions. So people that are new to IT and don't know what this all big abbreviations stand in for, like UI, UX, QA, and so on. So we prepared an intro to tech professions so people can hear from practitioners what is this about, try a bit themselves in practice, do like a simple HTML page or design something simple so they can actually understand, wow, that's what I need or not. And that's our mission, to start from scratch, from career orientation to actually giving people a full intensive education that would be a first step into the tech profession. And those courses were actually our base to grow, and we grew since 2014 into 12K graduates. We are very proud that a lot of graduates are female, that we focus a lot also on encouraging women to enter IT, not to be afraid, also to be developers, and also maybe balance a bit more this gap that there is between men and women in IT. And also what's important for us, of course, is employment rate, because then that's our mission, not to only give education, but help our students to get employed in tech. And now we are on the wave of AI education, and to catch it, we really needed to think fast. And I think as a lot of even time already passed, but still for many people it's very new, and a lot of people need this education when they enter IT, or even if they work in IT. That's why we were planning, okay, what should we do? And we plan to do AI modules and AI webinars, AI workshops. And to do all of that, we got lucky to secure a funding from one of our donors, our partners in the project Reconomy, with various partners. You can see here, funded the development of AI educational products by Beetroot Academy. So by this, you can see that the world is eager to help. Also, various organizations can help you. And also for all companies and organizations, I'm encouraging that you can look for opportunities and also try to partner with different companies and organizations to do something new. And the project goals are to teach junior specialists how to use the generative AI tools, and also upskill existing specialists in tech. And what did we do? So we got the funding. What's the next step? We needed also to educate our team that in Beetroot ecosystem, both Beetroot Tech and Beetroot Academy learned AI tools and the basics. What is this mystical AI, and what's the data set, how the AI is being trained, what the machine learning is about. For all of us to understand this, to also understand how to manage IT education, even if we hire a AI expert and a teacher, but the team is also should be aware. So we got firstly our internal workshops about AI for Beetroot ecosystem, and then we moved to the next step. Our next step was public events for wider audience, and we held webinars firstly for the Ukrainian public about AI for quality assurance, for AI for project management, AI for UX design. And after this, we also held a webinar for international public in English, and it was about making your work more efficient with AI instruments, how to decrease the time to do some specific task, what to use, how to write these prompts efficiently, and in ChatGPT, and also all other tools available right now. And in addition to that, also after having open webinars for the public, we also needed to look into our existing courses. So when people sign up for our courses, they have various modules, they have various lessons with teachers, and we added a self-paced lesson about AI tools to each of our courses. So every student can view it in our learning management system and learn by watching videos with experts, by reading articles and learning the vocabulary, and also doing some small homework to also practice this with some task, not only with the theory. So we added it to each of our courses. That was a very important milestone for us. So they are up to date. We of course need to teach what is relevant for the market right now, and we understand that there will be new AI tools appearing in the world, and day by day it's developing so fast that we of course will monitor and update this module. And as an example, wanted to show the material in the self-paced lesson is very basic, but as also we mentioned before in the session that for a lot of people it's still very new and still very mystical. So they need to also learn the basics. I hope that one day it will be also a part of maybe a curriculum in the high school or and universities for everyone to understand how this works. And of course, we started to work with our courses on this. So here you can see some examples, and to talk a bit more in depth about mechanics. How do we do this? How do we organize this? First of all, we have our product team that works in the academy on our courses. Our amazing product team, really a lot of kudos to them. They manage the strategy of our education and also materials development. We have product managers, methodologists, editors, and translator. And with their help, we also hire freelance authors that are practitioners and that work on developing and updating our existing courses. Since 2014, we have more than 200 of them and people that we really trust. And then we have a learning management system where we can upload our videos, homeworks, different tasks, tips, articles, guides, also for using AI tools. And what are our future plans? To wrap it up, we are working on more open webinars for the public, webinars for AI in specific professions, as well as using AI for career building. And we also work on workshops for IT companies to upskill their employees. And we also choose to educate some companies for free and also to sell it in the future, maybe as B2B product. And we also will update our existing courses with more self-paced lessons, but that are very specific to the profession that people learn. One more webinar that we will conduct will be happening very soon on November 8th. So everyone of you is also welcome to join. We follow our channels, and it will be more information how to use AI in the learning process. And I want to say thanks to the speakers and to listeners. Let's talk. I'm very happy to also discuss partnerships that we can do as we need to unite. And as a Ukrainian, I also want to remind that we have a war in Ukraine. And of course, it's for us as Ukrainian company, it's important to unite efforts with other companies, also educate our Ukrainian IT companies so they are stronger or international markets, so they continue improving and continue also making our economy stronger in Ukraine, but also in the whole world. Thanks.
Thank you a lot, Anastasia. Thank you for your final word at the speech, because I'm also Ukrainian, and you know, I really appreciate when we can like really tell to the world how we feel and what's going on. But our topic is different, actually. So we are done, and we had 3 speeches already with our amazing speakers. Thank you a lot for being here and sharing the experience. And our timing has moved a bit, and our Q&A session is going to be like super short. We have a couple questions from the chat, and I will read them. So the first question will be to Dmytro, and from the chat. So Julia is asking, what would be your single most important advice for EdTech startups on securing investment for AI development? I know, that's a huge one.
Get as much close to profitability as possible to make sure you are in the position for potential investment for you to be optional. We are now in the very different market globally. The world is going through a lot of turbulence, and what is valued among investors and overall is profitability. Last few years were like, you should show a path to profitability somewhere in the future, but now get your revenues up and expenses down and like try to stay there, and then investors will line up to give money to you. Just like try to make profits and significant revenue. Other things unlikely will happen to you. And if you're talking about AI, you should like understand what is your secret sauce, because like if you're just a wrapper around OpenAI, it's not enough. Think about what is something that your competitors can't replicate. That also should be an element of raising investment.
Good. Thank you a lot. I hope Julia Husk is happy about the answer, and we'll write down some notes for her. Okay, we had one more question for Philip. And Philip, I'm not sure if you're going to be okay with the question, but I have to read it. So yeah, that's a short one. And the person is asking, how about starting with AI ethics policy? Do we work with AI ethics? Is it popular in the world now?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it is the question, where should you start with AI ethics? So when I was talking about policy, part of policy is not just usage, where that's going to come into play, but it's also what's the company's position, right? Like what do we believe and how do we feel about this? How important and how far do we want to take our stance on ethics? And I think ethics are going to be critical to this. And so we have to be respectful of the impact. I think there's a little bit of a funny thing that's happened where AI has drawn out a discussion about ethics that I think should have been part of businesses well before AI arrived. So this is something that I think will force us to take that stance. But those biases and the biases that existed in the data, it was there before. It's just how it's being used and applied. And so I think we have to recognize it, and I think we need to take an active stance and try to systematically address this. I also think you're going to have broader regulation coming in. So you saw the policies coming out of the White House here in the US around AI regulation. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. So this will become not just an individual company or enterprise's decision. It will be something that will be mandatory by regulation. I hope.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just reading the questions at the same time. Yeah. Thank you. thank you for answer. I'm also hoping that the person who asked is happy about the answer. So actually, as a host, I'm thinking that let's not break our timing. And I think we can wrap up. And if there is like more super specific questions, you can send it to Beetroot and we will go back to the speakers and we will try to get the answers for you guys. And also after the event, we will share with you the materials and like there will be the newsletter and white paper from Philip and also the record of our webinar. So you will definitely keep this knowledge with yourself. I want to say thank you so much to each speaker for your time and your work preparation and being here with us. Thank you to our audience for being active, asking questions and just like joining the event. And I wish us all to have a great day and a lot of success in our business and personal life. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks
a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. No.